Well, here we are back at nouns. Time to learn a bunch of, learn the plurals of these nouns you've already learned. The 54 nouns you've learned, today you're going to learn the plurals. You'll see straight away that there are certain patterns. Those patterns may not be entirely obvious, but it'll be clear enough that there are some patterns. You may realize or may think that, wow, I wish this were English where plurals are produced from singulars simply by adding an S. We'll talk about that later. But for now, let's get to work. You know he Athene, the plural, hi Athenai. You can see that the word the changes its form just as the noun does. And also you can see that the adjective, such as ekene, becomes ekenai. The word that, the demonstrative adjective that, changes shape much as the word the definite article does. And similarly, for the feminine word this, haute becomes hautai. Okay, let's just look at them. He Athene, hi Athenai. He kephale, hi kephalai. He mache, hi machai. He kithare, hi kitharai. He thure, hi thurai. He adikie, hi adikiai. He amaxa, hi amaxai. He trapeza, hi trapezai. He musa, hi mosai. Looks pretty regular, even when we move on to the next row. Yeah, come on here, let's get there. There we go. Even when we move on to the next row and look at sailors, ho nautes, hoi nautai, ho stratiotes, hoi stratiotai, ho neanies, hoi neaniai. Thus far, all the nominative plurals, all the plurals that you've learnt, end in I. Though you do notice that the word the in its masculine form and the adjectives ekenoi and hutoi, those end in oi. Hoi, ekenoi, hutoi. And that presages a phenomenon we begin to see in the next group of nouns, these group 2 nouns. Ho theos becomes hoi theoi. Ho anthropos becomes hoi anthropoi. Ho doulos becomes hoi douloi. Even he theos, he hodos, he esodos become hi theoi, hi hodoi, hi esodoi. And you'll recall these neuter nouns like todoron, todoron, to stadion, to prosopon, become tadora, ekena tadora, tau tatadora, tadora, ta stadia, ta prosopa. So you see that you're going to have to learn new endings for the in the neuter and ekena in the neuter, and later we'll see tauta, the word this, in the neuter plural. So now you've seen what, about 3 or 4 different patterns, and now things begin to become kind of confusing and strange. We see odd phenomena here, odd evidence. Ho eros becomes hoi erotes. Ho pais becomes hoi paides. Ho ornis becomes hi ornithes. It's as though somebody pops a new letter in here. And one might wonder, why in the world would a language do that? It also causes a person to note, if you reflect a little, that, this erot in the plural seems oddly familiar to us. in that it says, it reminds us of our word erotic, and the pied in the plural reminds us of pediatric, and the th present in ornith reminds us of ornithology. It's odd, as though for some reason the people who made up English words that have these Greek origins went back to the plural instead of the singular, and one might wonder why. That trend continues when you look at these plurals. To soma becomes ta somata. To grama becomes ta gramata. To agalma becomes ta galmata. You remember we talked about somatic and grammatical, and once again that plural seems to be a better indicator of the shape of the English word than the singular does, which is kind of an odd phenomenon. He culix, hi culices. He sphinx, hi sphinges. And here's a really weird one. He thrix, hi triches. The initial letter even changed here. Very peculiar. One wonders why, or if there is a why. The singular hokyklops becomes hokyklopes. Hogyups becomes hogyupes. Hiernips becomes hihernibes. Horator becomes hoiretores. Mater, haimeteres. To pure, ta pura. He Amazon becomes hi Amazones. Holimen becomes holimenes. He ris becomes hirines. And once again we find ourselves thinking, wait, otorhinolaryngology, rhinoceros, rhines. Why isn't there an N in the singular, but there is in the plural? And that perception continues with hogeron, but hoigerontes, gerontology. Hoelephas, hoelephantes. To preponta, preponta. Then we get these singulars and plurals. He acropolis, hi acropolies. He basis, hi basies. He opsis, hi opsies. Ho necus, hoi necues. Ho pelecus, hoi peleces, us. Nope, not a typo. To astiu, ta astea. Here, by the way, is that neuter plural of the word this. Tuto becomes tauta, as to becomes ta. Ho basileus becomes hoi basileus. The singular has an upsilon, the plural doesn't. How odd, how odd. Heneus, haineus, same sort of thing here. Hebos, hyboes. I wonder what happens to these U's in the plurals. And finally, ho Socrates, hoi Socrates. You and I both know probably people didn't very often talk about these Socrateses. That's okay. This is grammar. We want to just, we're looking at forms of words, and it's possible to talk about several Socrateses, just as you can say there are 4 Bobs in my class, And not that there are, they'd be Justins instead. He trieres, hi trieres. And here's a weird one. Toxifos, toxifea. Person might wonder, why isn't this one like theos and anthropos, which were ho theos, ho anthropos, hoi theoi, hoi anthropoi, and here we get not toxifos, toxifoi, but toxifos, toxifea. Well, there are lots of questions that arise from learning these plurals, and those questions and that wonder are good. But for now, in chapter 2 of our book, where we are in your development right now, we don't have any answers to those questions. We'll get those in the next chapter. For now, what you need to do is to memorize all these plurals. If you work hard at it using the drills, you'll find it goes much faster than you might have anticipated. Okay, get to work, learn these plurals.